It was the same tree that we'd sat under year after year. He was my guide since the very moment that I'd had that awakening, that seeker within me. He'd been my guide. And as we sat, Hassan said to me, "Akbar, my friend, it's time for you to go to the Master, the Source. This is your final initiation. Stand, Akbar," he said. "Take off your garments. Go naked to this source. Follow the path that you see winding across the field and towards that great mountain that lies in the distance there. I will remain here, but I will be with you." So I set out. It was grass under my feet, and I could feel the dew squishing through my toes. I could feel the earth alive beneath the soles of my feet. But then, when I reached the foot of the mountain, and it began to climb in front of me, it became very dense, the trees. It was dark, and I was a little afraid. But then I heard a sound. And I followed that sound. And very soon I came to a cascade, a waterfall. And at the bottom of the waterfall there was a pond, and the pond flowed off into a stream that seemed to wind itself around and down the mountain. And when I approached the water, it sparkled. It danced in front of my eyes as the cascade came down. And it was clear. It was so clear I could see right into its depths. And as I listened, it seemed that the water spoke to me. "Come, enter into my flow." And I moved closer and closer. It seemed to become a vortex that was pulling me in. And then I heard my master's voice, "Hassan, Akbar, do not enter the water." So I pulled myself back, even though I could feel the magnet pulling me. And reluctantly, I moved on and found the path once again and began the climb, climbing and climbing and climbing. Again, it became dark and dense and a little frightening. But then, suddenly, I came to a clearing. It opened out in front of me. And as I stepped into it, there was light. And the sun was shining down. I could feel it on my skin. I tingled all over. I began to tremble. And then I basked in it. I basked in its warmth. And then the sun spoke to me. It said, I am a creator, a preserver, a destroyer. Be one with me, join with me, unite with me. Oh, I fell on my knees. Yes. And then Hassan's voice rang in my ears. No. This is not the source. So I drew myself back, and seeing an opening at the edge of the clearing, I moved towards the path once again. And I climbed, and I climbed, and I climbed, until I came to a rocky outcrop that led to a cliff. It was steep and jagged, and I had to inch my way around the rock and stand precariously. The vista was grand. But then, as I stood, I felt the wind. Oh, the wind caressed my skin. And then I felt as though I were a bird. I could feel my wings lifting and lifting. And I could feel the wind beginning to lift. And I looked out yonder at that vastness, that space. And I knew that I could fly, an eagle. And as I was about to allow the wind to take me, Hassan's voice said, Akbar, Akbar, do not be seduced by the wind. So again I drew myself back. And Hassan said, turn, face the rock. And when I did, I saw in front of my eyes a tiny crevice, a tiny opening, a tiny space, like the eye of a needle. And I knew that I had to pass through this crevice. How could I? It was so narrow. Somehow I had to become so small. I don't know how I did it, but somehow I passed through that space. And when I came out the other side, I was at the top of the mountain. And there, in front of me, was a rock. Or was it? As I looked, I could see it was not a rock. It was a man. but like no man I'd ever met before. And as I looked, I saw his eyes, not eyes of any being, high or low, that I'd ever encountered. And the features. There was no benevolence. There was no greeting. There was no welcoming. But the eyes. And as I looked and fixed my gaze, I began to feel within me a trembling. And the trembling grew and grew until its feeling became a roar in my ears. Oh, this wasn't the sound of spirit, that Om that I'd repeated so many times for so many years. No, this was not the sound of creation. It roared through me. It felt as though every atom of my being was that sound, but not the sound I'd ever known before. But somehow, unlike the fear that I'd experienced on my journey up the mountain, or even those moments of abject fear along the spiritual path, where I could feel parts of my being falling away. It was my core, my essence. No more. No more. And then, like an echo, I heard Hassan's voice. It spoke through and beyond and around the roar. Stand, Akbar. Look, Akbar. And as I stood, I gazed out into a place where all could be seen. The mountain, the cliff, the wind, the sun, the cascade, the stream, the village, Hassan sitting under the tree. And Hassan spoke to me again, this time as though we were sitting close together under the tree. There are several questions. First, in our life, in your life, what have been the three great seductions? What in your life have been the three great seductions represented in this story by the call of the water, the power of the sun, the greatness of the wind, and what were the words that Hassan spoke to me and are speaking to you?